Welcome to Salish Sea Fellowship Sunday afternoon service. Our speaker today is Nils Pedersen. His sermon title is, It's Groundhog Day, Again. We hope you enjoy this recording of our service, and we hope to see you in person some Sunday afternoon. Thanks for listening.
Okay, well, the first thing that I want to announce is that the hearing assistance system is working. It's installed and it's operational and blessed. Pastor Scott sprinkled the holy water on it, so we're good to go. Okay? So if there's anybody with hearing aids or without hearing aids that wants hearing assistance, we have one device left that has earbuds, and you can go back there and borrow it. Okay, so onward. Could I hold the microphone? Okay, how is that? And you're going to, you think I can read this and do this at the same time, don't you? Okay. So, our offering today is for Dove House, and Penny's going to give us the, I can't, well, this is quite a challenge. Next week, the 22nd, is our regular game day, and so have some fun and fellowship and see Alan Thompson about that. Our next service, March 1st, 2 weeks from today, Joseph Bednark is going to speak about forgiving and forgetting. I almost forgot. Join us for our usual time at 2 o'clock, but we're going to switch back to the 4 o'clock time on the Ides of March. The 15th of March, we're going to be switching back. So put that in your calendar so you don't forget. Breakfast Club meets with Karen and Sarah every Wednesday at 9:30 at the Roadhouse. Yellow, come on down. Corporate Review invites members of Salish Sea Fellowship to join, that is, male members. Join the men's retreat. Will be May 1 through 3, and Brian Rogers is the local expert on that. If you have not submitted your pledge, do it. Lastly, please don't forget about the coffee table jar for contributions to help support CUMC's noble efforts here. Thank you.
Thank you, Akui. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Salish Sea Fellowship. We are a religious community with open hearts and open minds. We embrace the traditional principles of Unitarianism and Universalism. Welcome. Welcome whether you are here with us in person or if you're joining us by Zoom today. My name is Penny Ritterbush, and I am the pulp assistant. If you have not already done so, please place your phones and watches into silent mode so as not to disturb the time we have set aside to be together. At this time, I would like to ask if there's anyone visiting us for the first time, and if you would either stand or raise your hand so we know where you are. Karen Wamstead will come to you with a microphone so you can briefly introduce yourself to us. Any visitors?
Yay, there is one.
Oh my, speak up. Hi, my name is Carol.
Right on? Okay, oh yes, okay, here's the thing. Hold it like an ice cream cone. Is it on? Now is it on? Sort of. So do that and then speak up.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Hello, hello, hello. My name is Carol, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. We're glad you're here.
And I hope you will stay and join us for refreshments after the service so we get a chance to know you. And now I invite us to settle in and quiet our minds. We will begin our sacred time together by ringing our chime. So we have lost our little pillow that goes under the chime. So if one of you who is a stitch witchery type person is interested in maybe making us a new little pillow, that would be wonderful. So it rings much better when it has a base. And we will now light our chalice with these words. May the flame of our chalice remind us that the same light that shines upon the beloved Groundhog is the same light that shines upon all of us. And now it's time for our joys and sorrows. We make time each week to share our joys and sorrows with one another, and Karen Wamstead will lead us in this portion of the service.
Thank you, Penny. I'm going to stay up here next to the chalice just as a reminder that across the world, there are terrible things happening. Across our country, people are afraid to go out of their homes. They rely on the goodness of their neighbors. We've seen that in Minneapolis. We don't know how many other places this is happening and still could. We want to remember those people throughout our country, throughout the world, who are in need of relief. And among us, in your greater community, your friends and neighbors, it's been a couple of weeks since we checked in, so I'd like to know, how is it with you? Good things happen, bad things happen. What's on your minds? Karen.
Karen Hamalainen. I have found a house in Uptown, a small house. I'm really delighted to have housing in Port Townsend.
Okay, so that means it's harder to get here. Okay, but if you need rides, people do come back and forth. Okay, all right.
It's Karen Wamstead's birthday. I think we should sing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Karen. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. And that's what being friends on Facebook will get you. And any other birthdays? No, okay.
My birthday today too. So
Oh, okay. So Scotty, your birthday is February 15th?
we're sisters.
Okay, good.
We're divided at birth.
Okay, well, I have never known anyone to be on the same day as me. And chances are there are others. Yeah. Okay.
Jack and I celebrated our 66th wedding anniversary 2 days ago.
Do you want to say anything? Okay. She may. Okay.
On the 26th, I'm Joellen Thompson. On the 26th, my son and I will be celebrating our birthday. He was born on my 21st birthday. He'll be turning 58, and I will be turning 79. I've had 16 years that I didn't expect to have.
Well, yay, let's continue that trend. Okay. But things are happening besides birthdays. Anything on your minds that you want to tell us about? Well, I'll have to catch you up on how Sarah is doing. She came home from the hospital as she eventually wanted to, and she had the benefit of a good 6 or 7 of you who stepped up and checked in on her, brought her home, or picked up things at the grocery store, or walked the dog, or one variety of things or another. So that's something that we can do, and that means that you have to tell us when you need something like that, or we might miss out on the opportunity to help you. So she's coming along. Okay, thank you all.
Our offering today will be for Dove House Advocacy Services, and I'd like to invite Yolanda Wild from Dove House to come up and share with us a little bit about what Dove House does.
All right. Is this okay? Everyone can hear me? So I'm Yolanda. Thank you so much for inviting me into your it's hard to follow. I think Gary, he has such a good sense of humor, it sounds like. So thank you for that on this day. So Dove House has been around since the 70s. It started with volunteers. I'm going to try to make this short and sweet, and I will be staying afterwards if anyone has questions. But it started as a nonprofit in '82, so we've been around. Started primarily as safe houses for domestic violence, and as, of course, need grew and kind of the veil lifted, perhaps, might be the best way to say it. We started also servicing sexual assault, and we also do general crime. So we are your one-stop kind of place for all general crime in all of Jefferson County. So we do everything from domestic violence, where we do have our shelter that houses 21 people. That does vary based on how many children are with usually the parent. We also then do SANE exams and whatnot with Jefferson County, so we provide advocacy for all of those SANE exams for sexual assault. We also walk along a lot of children through the Children's Advocacy Center, so when those interviews happen, we're the folks who provide that. And then we also do general crime, if that can vary from romance scams to your identity's been stolen to, anything like that. So we also help with that as well. So if anyone needs those services, we're the kind of the folks who help you with that. In 2019, we then opened up the Recovery Cafe, and that was built on the belief that we need community. So it's so great when we see these kind of things, because a lot of folks who leave tough situations, you lose your community, right? And so that could be friends, that could be family, that could be lots of different things. And so that place was built to hopefully instill community back in folks who needed it. It's open to anyone in our community. We do lots of groups there, but we also provide lunch. So if anyone ever wants to come, Tuesday through Friday, free lunch from noon to 2. That's pretty much ran all on volunteers. So we serve about 89 lunches a day to the people in our community. All of our services are free. So no matter if you need food, clothing, gas, we help with housing, all of those kind of items, it's all free. So it's the community around us that really allows that to happen. And then also we recently took over the closet. It's been a year now. So if anyone is familiar with New Image, that gal decided to kind of fully retire, it sounded like, although I hear she's volunteering again somewhere. So her heart is definitely in that service mode. But we took that over, and now that's a clothing store that's open to everybody in our community as well. It's open Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it is by the YMCA and the food bank, and that's a place, women, children, and men, we opened it up to everybody, so anyone who wants to come shop can, and that's also fully ran on donations. So we work a little bit with Bombas for socks, but other than that, it's pretty much all community members. So if anyone wants to volunteer there, that's great. We love people to help sort, go through those items. If you have clothing, we take kind of like new, and we don't take any old undergarments, so socks, underwear, bras, we don't take those, but everything else, workwear, we'll take all day. High school clothing, that kind of weird in-between children and adult clothing, we'll take all day. We can't keep that in-house by any means. So really, those are kind of the umbrella of what we do. So we appreciate, I love to share what we do, and I love to just, if anyone ever wants to come in and do tours and see our facilities, come to the cafe and have lunch with us. We do circles there, because we really believe that the support system is kind of a very large interconnected web, and if we don't kind of support each other through those things, then people can fall through gaps, or we're not sure where those support systems are needed or necessary. And also where the trauma comes from can be a lot of shame and a lot of belief systems that perhaps I'm not worthy of those things. So if anyone needs our services, please come. If anyone wants to donate, if anybody wants to come volunteer, you just want to come have lunch, please come and see us. We'd love to kind of promote what we do. And then also, someday, hopefully, we won't be needed. But until then, I just really, really, really am thankful for everyone always inviting us into these amazing spaces. So just thank you on this amazing, beautiful Sunday, how gorgeous it is. So appreciate, I'll be here later. I got business cards, but if anyone needs anything, please don't hesitate to let me know. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Yolanda. While we listen to Chris and Terry Copeland and Elle Thompson perform Candle of Life, our ushers will come among us with baskets so we can contribute to Dove House.
So this is a Moody Blues song, and chosen by Nils, not us. And the words are on the back, and if you know the song, feel free to sing along.
Our speaker today is Nils Pedersen. And for those of you who don't know, Nils is one of the founding members of Salish Sea Fellowship. He is currently serving as president of our board of directors, and our website lists him as our board member on duty coordinator. Another title. So, Nils.
Thanks, everybody. And before I get started, I want to thank everybody who indulged my tastes in music for this sermon. Everybody dove right in and said, it's great, whatever, we'll do it. So thank you. I'm going to do a quick reading with Joyce, if you would join me up here. This is a reading from one of the diner scenes in the film Groundhog Day. It's a back and forth between Phil, our protagonist or perhaps anti-hero, and Rita, his love interest, discussing what she wants in a man. And, I need the mic, yep.
You do?
So, who is your perfect guy?
Well, first of all, he's too humble to know he's perfect.
That's me.
He's intelligent, supportive, funny.
Intelligent, supportive, funny. Me.
He's romantic and courageous.
That's me also.
He's got a good body, but he doesn't have to look in the mirror every 2 minutes.
I have a great body, and sometimes I go months without looking.
He's kind and sensitive and gentle, and he's not afraid to cry in front of me.
This is a man we're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. He likes animals, children, and he'll change poopy diapers.
Does he have to use the word poopy?
Yeah. Oh, and he plays an instrument, and he loves his mother.
I am really close on this one. Really, really close.
Good job. Oh, are we switching? Okay.
Yesterday was Valentine's Day, so we thought we would sing a love song.
Maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I could have. Maybe I didn't treat you quite as good as I should have. If I made you feel second best, well, I'm sorry I was blind. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Maybe I didn't hold you all those lonely, lonely times. And I guess I never told you I'm so happy that you're mine. Little things I should have said and done, I just never took the time. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Tell me that your sweet love hasn't died. Give to keep you satisfied. I'll keep you satisfied. Maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I could have. Maybe I didn't treat you quite as good as I should have. If I made you feel second best, well, I'm sorry I was blind. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Terry and Chris. And thanks to Ron for letting me have this slot in the schedule here. Appreciate it. As if you had a choice, yes. Now. Are we on? Can you hear me okay? Okay. All right. Movies are not the basis of sermons very much, at least in my experience. Perhaps we don't find them as spiritually uplifting as poetry or music, given that most of the time they're designed to get a certain age group to buy a ticket, a large soda, and a bucket of popcorn. But there are certainly exceptions. My most watched movie at this point in my life is still It's a Wonderful Life. I watch it almost every Christmas. But moving up in the rankings is Groundhog Day, the Bill Murray romantic comedy from 1993. And I mention both because of the contrast in their two protagonists. George Bailey has had a wonderful life. At critical points, he always does the right thing for his family and his community, often going against his own bigger dreams. But it takes Clarence, agent second class, to convince him that he truly is a success and that no man is a failure who has friends. Cue his brother's toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town, always gets to me. Phil Connors, our TV weatherman anti-hero of Groundhog Day, is no George Bailey. He doesn't appear to have any real friends, and he is in fact a jerk. We know this from the start. He thinks he's better than his peers at the TV station. He constantly makes jokes at their expense. He generally treats them like lesser beings. But we also know, or at least we strongly suspect, that somehow by the end of the film, he's going to win the heart of Rita, his new producer. How does that happen? Harold Ramis directed this film based on a script by Danny Rubin and himself. It started out as a somewhat ordinary comedy vehicle for Bill Murray, following up on Ramis's success in movies like Ghostbusters and Caddyshack with Murray. But soon after they started shooting, Ramis and Rubin discovered that they had something a bit more special and started rewriting the script even while they were in the middle of filming in Woodstock, Illinois, not in the actual Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. The result is a story documenting Phil's change from a major narcissistic asshole to a kind, caring, and decent person, along the way touching on Buddhism, psychology, small-town life, and I would argue the purpose of life itself. Let's set the table. So, our hero Phil Connors is the mildly amusing local TV weatherman for Channel 9 Pittsburgh. His annual assignment is to cover Groundhog Day, which he hates doing. It's hokey, it's put on by the local hicks, it has no actual bearing on the real weather. Why does he have to waste his precious time doing this, covering a groundhog, especially since he's about to take his career off to the West Coast? In any case, Phil, Rita, his producer, and Larry, his cameraman, played by Chris Elliott, head to Punxsutawney on February 1st and check into their places to stay. Phil gets to stay in the nice traditional bed and breakfast while his co-workers stay in the Hotel Ordinaire. He wakes up the next morning at 6 a.m. in a scene to be repeated over and over and over, to his alarm clock blaring out Sonny and Cher's "I Got You, Babe," and the "It's cold outside" banter by the local radio station DJs. He gets dressed, heads downstairs, and along the way is rude, sarcastic, or demeaning to almost everyone he meets on the way to Gobbler's Knob, which is where Phil the Groundhog will let everyone know if we will have an early spring. Along the way, we get the first of the scenes, the classic scenes with Stephen Tobolowsky as Ned Ryerson that Phil knew in high school. Ned is now an insurance salesman, and he's instantly on the make. Through most of the movie, as each Groundhog Day repeats, Phil dismisses Ned's sales pitch in a variety of escalating maneuvers, including one time just slugging him, another time suggesting to Ned that they go back to his room for a morning tryst. This is also the scene where Phil steps into the icy puddle. There is, in fact, a plaque in Woodstock, Illinois, where that footstep took place. And Ned utters the immortal line, "Watch out for that first step, it's a doozy." He arrives at Gobbler's Knob to the sound of the Pennsylvania polka, which we will also hear over and over and over, meets up with Rita and Larry, and does the Groundhog report for the TV station. By the way, 6 more weeks of winter, according to the Groundhog. They pack up the truck to head back to Pittsburgh. The snowstorm that Phil had thought was going to blow past them has in fact settled in. The interstate is closed. They have to go back to Punxsutawney. Phil argues with the state trooper that it's not that bad. "I make the weather," he says to the trooper. That argument doesn't work, and they return to the B&B. Phil goes to sleep. The first Groundhog Day ends. Day 2. Phil is woken again by Sonny and Cher and the DJs doing the exact same shtick. He sees people heading for Gobbler's Knob. He's weirded out. He's not sure what's going on, whether it's him or what, but it seems like he's reliving the same day. He gets dressed and goes through the same motions. As he comes downstairs to breakfast, he meets up with Mrs. Lancaster, the innkeeper, and asks her if she ever has deja vu, and she replies, "I don't know, but I can check with the kitchen." Still confused, he goes through the motions of the day, doing the report from Gobbler's Knob. He's stuck again in Punxsutawney. He returns again to the inn. He goes to bed again. But as he's getting ready to go to sleep, he picks up a pencil in his nightstand and breaks it in two and places it on the nightstand. Next morning, as he wakes to "I Got You, Babe" once again, the pencil is there on the nightstand, once again whole. This is when he begins to realize that no matter what he does, there are no consequences. Everything is just going to reset the next morning. He at first wonders if he's going crazy. In the course of his repeating days, he goes to both the doctor and a psychiatrist, neither of which helps. He kind of starts to accept his fate in having to repeat this day. And he starts to realize that he can get away with anything, and he puts it to the test. He goes on a drunken driving rampage with 2 drinking buddies, gets caught, jailed, wakes up the next morning to Sonny and Cher back in the inn. Yes, he got away with it. He then proceeds to use his days to seduce local woman Nancy by learning about her, over-repeated Groundhog Days. He stops stepping in the icy puddle. He robs an armored car simply by precisely timing his movements with when the guards are distracted. But he also starts to talk to his producer Rita more, usually in the diner, and as we saw earlier, at one point directly asks her what her idea of the perfect man is. As an audience, we now suspect 2 things. 1, that Phil won't stop repeating this day until he does just the right thing somehow. And 2, the thing probably involves capturing the heart of Rita. Perhaps we and Phil also understand that as his day plays out over and over, everyone else is going to do exactly the same thing. They're going to stay who they are. The only thing that can change is what Phil chooses to do. What Phil does now is begin a repeated attempted seduction of Rita. Day after day, he works at this. He learns about her. He makes mistakes like dissing her 19th century French poetry. But even as he improves his game day to day after day, he fails. Every day, Rita eventually figures out that he is just a narcissist on the make, and every day ends with her slapping him. Phil gets desperate. He gets depressed. Eventually, he stops trying at all. At Gobbler's Knob one day, he says to the camera, "If you want a weather prediction, it's going to be cold, it's going to be gray, and it's going to last the rest of your life." He then blames the groundhog for his being stuck. He kidnaps Phil, drives off a cliff, kills them both, boom. Next scene, it's 6 a.m., he's back in the inn, on comes Sonny and Cher, we're back into it. He then proceeds to kill himself in many, many different ways, none of which stop the cycle of repeated days. Finally, he gives that up too, and one day in the diner with Rita declares himself a god because he can't be killed. Rita obviously does not believe he's a god, citing her expertise in the matter from 12 years of Catholic school. Phil then walks around the diner and tells Rita personal details about every person there, also predicting events and what people will say right before they happen. So Phil also thinks he's a god because he's mistaking the idea of godly omnipotence for having lived so long that he knows everything and he can use his knowledge to manipulate events in his favor. But while manipulating events to get whatever he wants is fleetingly satisfying, it never ultimately changes anything. It doesn't get him Rita because she still recognizes who he is underneath, and he is still stuck in this time loop. After his repeated suicides, he suggests that he has killed himself enough times so as to no longer exist. Harold Ramis, the director and co-writer, suggests that the repetition gives Phil an opportunity to escape from his own narcissistic self-confinement, and that it is at this point in the story that Phil actually becomes ready to change. Excuse me. Also notice that on this day, Phil is finally being completely open and honest with Rita. And while she doesn't think he's a god, of course, she also doesn't dismiss him as crazy. So she winds up spending the day with him, finishing the day fairly innocently, especially for Phil, in his room at the B&B, throwing cards into a hat. He tells her that he is cursed to relive this day over and over, and that the worst part is, tomorrow you'll have forgotten all about this and treat me like a jerk again. Rita says to him, maybe it's not a curse. It depends on how you look at it. She stays with him as he reads her poetry, and he declares his feelings for her as she falls asleep, also saying that he doesn't deserve someone as special as her. Is this finally his last day? Not quite. Phil wakes up the next morning, but instead of the usual frustration as he listens to "I Got You, Babe," he is filled with new determination. He proceeds to use his days, maybe thousands of days, to read, to think, to look at what's possible. He learns the piano. He does ice sculpture carving with and without chainsaw. He starts to help out the people around him. He keeps trying to save an old homeless man who nonetheless finishes every Groundhog Day by dying. This is when Phil seems to learn that despite his ability to acquire knowledge and to manipulate events, he is not, in fact, a god. There are just some things he can't do anything about. Let's digress a bit before we get to Phil's last Groundhog Day. One thing I think the movie addresses is the sometimes tedium of daily living. In one early scene, Phil's in the bowling alley with two drinking buddies and asks them, what would you do if you were stuck in one place and every day was exactly the same and nothing that you did mattered? And the one guy replies, that about sums it up for me. I also think it highlights that everybody else in the day-to-day, of course, is going to do what they're going to do, and that the only change agent in your life is yourself. If you're stuck in a rut, you're the only one that can really get you out of it. If you're a jerk, you're the one that has to stop being a jerk. Phil here, however, does have help. He has the object of his desire, Rita, who of course never changes as a person. She is who she is. Maybe we think of her as Phil's conscience or inner voice, telling him what kind of person he should be. I think of her role as a mirror to Phil, every day reflecting back to him who he is in that moment, whether that's a jerk, a guy in the make, or perhaps eventually a decent person that she could actually hang out with. So we've seen Phil at first indulge himself, then eventually break down and surrender when he seemingly can't get what he wants, then start to be honest with himself and others, and finally build himself back up as a new person. So here is his last Groundhog Day. Gratefully, we skip having to hear Sonny and Cher again, and we start right at Gobbler's Knob with Phil doing his on-air presentation, delivering a beautiful and moving tribute to the people of Punxsutawney and Groundhog Day, saying in effect, if we have to suffer 6 more weeks of winter, at least we have each other. Next, he catches a boy falling out of a tree, who he berates for yet again having failed to thank him. He fixes a flat tire for 3 old ladies, even as they're just realizing that they have a flat. Buster, one of the grandees of Groundhog Day, has his life saved by Phil performing the Heimlich maneuver. As Rita walks into the ballroom of the Groundhog Day party that evening, we see Phil at the piano, expertly playing with the band. He spots Rita and breaks into Rachmaninoff's Rhapsody on a theme of Paganini 18th Variation. Thank you, He then joins Rita, and as various townspeople come up and thank him, we further learn that Phil talked Fred and Debbie into going through with their wedding, even buying them WrestleMania tickets as a present. He fixed another man's back, and we wonder if he also became a chiropractor along the way. Rita wants to know what's going on with this guy that she used to think was a jerk. So she buys him at the bachelor auction so she can spend the rest of the day with him. On their way out, we see Ned Ryerson one last time in a scene, in fact, added at the last minute and written by Stephen Tobolowsky, and learn that Phil has bought every single insurance product he sells. On their way back to the inn, Phil creates a lovely sculpture of Rita's face out of the snow and ice, and as she is rendered speechless, he says, no matter what happens tomorrow or for the rest of my life, I'm happy now. Phil, maybe we can say, has become a complete person. He has completely changed. He's kind, he's thoughtful. He uses his time to work on himself and to help others. His motivation for his personal change is the love for Rita that grew over time. But also he has learned to enjoy the moment he is in for the sake of that moment, even knowing that it won't last. This makes me ask a question. Do men only really change for the sake of a love interest? I kept thinking back to the scene in As Good as It Gets, which you may remember. Helen Hunt's character doesn't understand why Jack Nicholson's character thinks that him starting to take his psychiatric medication is a compliment. And he says to her, you make me want to be a better man. Sure, Phil is certainly a better person, and perhaps he believes he's in love, but is it still mostly about lust? The final bedroom scene at the inn follows right after the ice sculpture, and we see the alarm clock hitting 6 a.m. the next morning. We discover, finally, it is now February 3rd because Rita is right there next to Phil in bed, and time has finally moved on. According to Stephen Tobolowsky, when it came time to shoot this scene, Bill Murray absolutely refused to shoot it until director Harold Ramis would answer the question, what am I wearing? Am I naked? Am I fully clothed? Am I in my pajamas? What am I wearing? Did we do it? Nobody apparently had thought about this. Harold Ramis wound up polling everybody there, the entire crew, and the vote was a tie. It came down to an assistant set director on her first movie. She said, they are both fully dressed the way they were. Absolutely, if you do it any other way, you will ruin the movie. So that's how they shot it. Apparently, thus, Phil has apparently transcended his lust for the sake of a complete relationship. So Phil wins Rita over only once he stops trying to do so, and instead demonstrates genuine care for others without fakery or self-interest, even while he knows he will likely reset and it will all have been for naught. Only then does Rita return his affections. The aspects of Rita that Phil mocked at the start of the film have become qualities that he admires and respects, and in turn, Phil receives Rita's love not because he desires it, but because he has genuinely become the type of person that Rita could love. Screenwriter Rubin has said that he did not set out to write the film as a spiritual allegory. He simply wanted to tell a story about human life and periods when a person becomes trapped in a cycle that they cannot escape. He said it was not just about a man repeating the same day, but a story about how to live. Whose life isn't a series of days? Who doesn't feel stuck from time to time? Bill Murray saw the original script as an interpretation of how people repeat the same day over and over because they're afraid of change. Rubin has said that at the start of the loop, Groundhog Day is the worst day of Phil's life. By being forced to change who he is, to embrace the world around him, and each moment of his day, it becomes the best day of his life, the day he fell in love. My psychologist friend Terry here tells me that for the most part, people don't really change unless they are forced to. But certainly the urge to have a close and intimate personal relationship can be a major driver of change. When I look at myself, there are certainly aspects of me that barely existed in my teens and 20s. Not coincidentally, I went through a series of short, unsuccessful relationships in my teens and 20s, and I even stopped dating altogether for a period of time. When I did start again, it got marginally better, but it wasn't really until I met a certain older woman at 30 years old that I became more comfortable with being honest about myself and what I wanted with a romantic partner. Fortunately for me, she has largely accepted me for who I am. That doesn't mean that changes have not occurred over time, of course. I do now make the bed, I do pick up the dog poop, and I bathe periodically. But just like Phil, some of these have taken a long time. I am reminded of the man's prayer from the Red Green Show. I am a man, but I can change if I have to, I guess. Bill Murray also said that Groundhog Day represents having the strength and knowledge to make a change when faced with the opportunity to repeat previous mistakes. He believes it still resonates because it's about the idea that we just have to try again. Buddhist leaders and scholars have frequently cited this movie as a modern parable for core Dharma teachings, none of which I really know much about, but particularly the cycle of samsara, karma, and the path to enlightenment. The film illustrates a trapped, ego-driven existence transforming into a life of service and presence, breaking the cycle of repetition. Phil Connor's daily repetition mirrors the cyclic nature of samsara, the endless, often painful cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Changing one's actions, karma, changes one's reality. Phil acts selfishly at first, negative karma, but eventually uses his time for selfless service to others, breaking the loop. Phil has also been viewed as a bodhisattva in training, a being who, rather than pursuing selfish nirvana, stays within the suffering world to help others, eventually achieving a state of awakened compassion. The goal is breaking free from the winter of ego-driven, habitual, and repetitive behavior to live in the spring of freedom and connection. It is this point I noted here the choice of Groundhog Day for the movie, February 2nd, smack dab in the middle of winter, where both Phil the groundhog and Phil the weatherman are respectively faced with the literal and metaphorical choices between more winter or an early spring. Journalist and historian Rick Brookhiser argues that it is because, finally, Phil lives in the moment and fully appreciates every facet of the day that he is rewarded by the day being taken from him. Loving life includes loving the fact that it goes. What pops out at me, beyond the difficulty of making real change, are the decisions Phil eventually makes. Phil is stuck in this quirky small town that at one point he hated, with those people he dismissed as hicks, with his silly annual ritual, perhaps not unlike Port Townsend in some ways. Slowly, over thousands, maybe tens of thousands of days, he gets to know the people of that town intimately, and the result comes to care about them. I believe that the more we learn about people as individuals, the more we understand who they are and know them on a personal level, the harder it is to dismiss them. Inevitably, they become a part of us, and we care about them. We as Unitarians and Universalists affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, which by the end of this film is exactly what Phil does. In so doing, what else can he do with the time he has but help those that need help? For all of us at the end of the day, all we have is each other, and all we can do, all we should do, is to support and hold each other up. I'd like to conclude with the adapted words of the Reverend Dr. Duncan Littlefair, which I often heard from Reverend Bruce Bodie. This is a new day that has been given unto us. Let us then rejoice in it and be glad. Let us be grateful for this time of fellowship, for work to do and service to render. And let us then be especially grateful for the ties of love which bind us together, giving dignity, meaning, worth, and joy to all our days. Thank you.
So the words are in the order of service, and please stand up and sing along as loud as you can. My wife and I saw this movie just 2 nights ago. Even though I saw it about 30 years ago. It's great fun. If you haven't watched it, you should do it again. Well worth it. Okay. You go.
I think that's the first time I've heard a polka at a church service since I left Wisconsin. Cool. So before I conclude, whether shadow or shine, may we find the strength to emerge from our own burrows, to step into the light of new beginnings. Let us honor the interdependence of all creation, cultivating gratitude for the earth and striving forward toward a renewed spiritual awareness in our daily lives. So let's say our closing words together. You will find these words in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the loving joy of being freely together. We carry that joy until we meet again. Well, thank you, Nils, for a very entertaining sermon, and I got a lot out of it. Anyway, please join us for refreshments provided by Clara Mason and Sherry Irwin in the back of the room, and we will have the question and answer period with Nils in about 15 minutes, and today it will be in the library. So see you there.